Billie Holiday thought the fight was about a song. She was wrong. Behind closed doors, powerful men were already building a case against her. Federal agents began watching her movements. Informants were sent into her life. Files grew thicker with every passing month. The woman who had captivated America with her voice was now becoming a target of the United States government. The question was no longer whether they would come for Billie Holiday, but when. By the early 1940s, Billie Holiday was more than a singer. She was a symbol. Night after night, audiences packed clubs to hear her perform. Her records sold. Her influence grew. And with every performance of Strange Fruit, her message reached new listeners. That influence alarmed Harry Anslinger. As commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, Anslinger had built a reputation as a relentless crusader. He believed drugs threatened the nation. But he also believed public figures should know their place, especially those capable of influencing public opinion. Billie Holiday was becoming exactly that kind of figure. To Anslinger, she represented a problem, a woman with a microphone, a growing audience, and a message he could not control. The government could not ban Strange Fruit. It could not erase the song, but it could target the woman singing it. And according to many historians, that is precisely what happened. Anslinger needed someone on the inside, someone who could get close to Billie Holiday, someone who could gather information. Eventually, federal authorities found a young black agent named Jimmy Fletcher. Fletcher's assignment was straightforward: gain Billie Holiday's trust, monitor her activities, help build a case. At first, Fletcher viewed the assignment as just another job. But the deeper Fletcher became involved in the investigation, the more conflicted he felt. Billie Holiday was not the dangerous figure he had been led to expect. She wasn't the mastermind. She wasn't a threat to national security. She was an artist, a woman carrying the weight of fame, personal trauma, and constant scrutiny. Yet the orders coming from above remained unchanged. Keep watching, keep reporting, keep building the case. Fletcher found himself caught between two worlds. On one side stood the federal government, demanding results. On the other stood Billie Holiday, a woman whose life was becoming increasingly difficult to separate from the investigation itself. What began as a routine assignment was turning into something far more personal. And as Fletcher's doubts grew, so did the government's determination to bring Billie Holiday down. The government knew Billie Holiday had struggled with drug addiction. That fact would become the foundation of its strategy. Agents monitored her movements, tracked her associates, collected information, and waited. They weren't looking for a warning. They weren't looking for a conversation. They were looking for an arrest. To the public, Billie Holiday remained a celebrated performer. Behind the scenes, however, the walls were beginning to close in. Every appearance, every trip, every relationship could become another piece of evidence. And Billie may not have realized how determined the government had become. Billie Holiday may have sensed that people were watching, but she could not have known just how far the investigation had progressed. Every performance brought new eyes into the room. Every conversation carried the possibility of being repeated to someone else. Friends, associates, club owners, musicians, anyone connected to Billie could become a source of information. The government wasn't simply monitoring a singer. It was constructing a narrative, piece by piece, report by report, building a case that would justify taking action. Meanwhile, Billie continued performing. She continued traveling. And she continued singing the song that had brought unwanted attention to her life. To audiences, she remained a star. But beneath the applause and glowing reviews, pressure was mounting. The investigation was no longer a distant threat. It was becoming part of her everyday reality. Federal agents believed time was on their side. They didn't need Billie Holiday to make a major mistake. They only needed an opportunity. And opportunities have a way of appearing when enough people are looking for them. As months passed, the government's focus became sharper. The reports became more detailed. The surveillance became more persistent. And the people directing the investigation were growing impatient. They wanted results. They wanted an arrest. Most of all, they wanted to send a message that would be heard not only by Billie Holiday, but by anyone else bold enough to challenge the status quo. The investigation had been set in motion. The informants were in place. The surveillance had begun. Now the government needed one thing: an opportunity. And before long, that opportunity would arrive. Because the next chapter in Billie Holiday's life would not unfold on a stage. It would unfold in a courtroom. And the consequences would follow her for the rest of her life.